Welcome to iPad Pros, the show all about using your iPad to be productive and get work done. I'm Tim Chaten, host of the show.
Yeah, so the workflow to pair your iPad with your iPad 10th gen with your Apple Pencil 1st gen is you take the Lightning-based Apple Pencil into this dongle, and on the other end of the dongle, you plug in a USB-C to USB-C cable, and you plug the other end of that into your iPad. I'm sorry, this does not just work. It is super convoluted, and like regular people are not going to figure this out. And frankly, this $9 dongle should just come with these iPads. Like they should just throw it in. No, not everybody has the Apple Pencil, but
Hello there, and welcome to a special episode all about Apple's announcements from October 18th, 2022. This includes the new Apple TV, the 10th generation iPad, and the M2 iPad Pro. Joining me to dive into all of the details is Brent Clark from the Marvel Alliance podcast. This was also the first episode I've recorded live over on YouTube. If you follow at iPad Pros Podcast on Twitter, you can see when I occasionally do these live recordings, which you can find over at youtube.com/@iPadProsPodcast. And you'll find another one there as well over at the YouTube channel if you want to check it out for a future episode coming out a fair bit from now. So live in the future over at youtube.com/@iPadProsPodcast and join me for the occasional live recording there as well. One thing we didn't mention in this discussion is that the new Magic Keyboard Folio for the 10th generation iPad does not have backlit keys, which Jason Snell pointed out in his excellent breakdown of the event over at 6 Colors. This is really a shame, as I really do love the backlit keys in the Magic Keyboard, and for a product that sells for $250, it really should include this as well. But maybe being built on the old smart connector technology, it maybe just couldn't power up that much backlight, however much power that does draw. So it's a shame, but something I just wanted to mention here at the front because we did not touch on it in the main episode. As a reminder, you can support this podcast over at patreon.com/iPadPros or by subscribing directly in Apple Podcasts. Your support is greatly, greatly appreciated. My thanks to everyone that has or has in the past supported the show. With that, here's my discussion with Brent all about Apple's latest announcements. Enjoy. Hey, Brent, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, how you doing? Glad to be here.
It's been a busy week or two here, but I thought I'd take a break on a very, very busy day to talk about all these interesting Apple announcements. We'll touch on Apple TV because I love the Apple TV, but mainly iPad today.
Yeah, so sounds good. There was definitely some interesting announcements, and at the same time, some questions.
Some curious announcements. So, let's start with the Apple TV. I just want to get the Apple TV out of the way with.
Sure, absolutely.
It's kind of a fun thing to see happen what they did today, because. So I remember back when the Apple TV was like a $79 box, and we're getting closer with today's update. Like the price came down significantly. We're not at $79 again, but we're now at $129, and it's a much better box from all regards, I think. So as far as storage, we're like doubling it to 64 and 128. And the $20 delta to the $149 box is that much more appealing because you get double the storage at 64 instead of an additional 32. And I guess you need Ethernet and Thread for that $20. Like it's a significant what you get for that. I wish they would have given you Ethernet and Thread for the lower end one because 64 is plenty for my needs. But and then we got USB-C in the remote now, which is cool. And I guess it's a lot lighter. It's fanless. It does HDR10 plus. It seems like a really solid just upgrade overall.
It does seem like a solid upgrade. Of course, depending on where you're coming from. I bought 2 of the Apple TV 4Ks that came out, a year ago or so? I don't know. The ones that have the new redesigned Siri remote, of course, those have Lightning on them. And as much as I am in the camp of USB-C everywhere, hopefully it happens for the iPhone sooner than later, looking at you next year, I'm not going to buy a new remote just to get USB-C because they're expensive remotes.
Only if it gets lost.
And my Apple TV 4K, like they're fine. Like the new last year's, for me, I'm not going to do it. But if something happens to one of these, it gets knocked off a shelf by one of the kids or something like that and it breaks, well, okay, I will happily go get these. And I probably would end up getting the Wi-Fi only one just because I have HomePods, I have another Apple TV, I've got my home hub situation figured out already, and in both cases of where my Apple TVs are, neither of them are hardwired. I'd actually like them to be, I just haven't came up with a reasonable solution for that yet. So they're both on wireless and they both work fine.
Yeah, and this is great if you need to get that second Apple TV. Mine is now 3 generations old. I didn't get the model, but I have the one before that, which is a 4K.
Oh, this would be a good update then.
But yeah, I'm very happy with the current one. There's no reason to update. I really wish that 128 gigabytes you could use it to store movies and TV shows for when you travel. That would be nice.
That would be amazing.
But that was not announced. We are getting,
even like just to have stuff you watch on a regular basis downloaded at all times. That'd be like if you have kids and you're like, oh, I'm gonna have your favorite movie just downloaded, ready to go. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, and evidently Ming-Chi Kuo said the next Apple TV will hit the sub $100 price point. So Ming-Chi Kuo already promising the future.
Well, we'll find out, but more often than not, he gets things right.
And yeah, evidently Apple announced some new features for tvOS 16 coming out later, 16.1. A lot of AirPods stuff, it looks like, is coming. So if you're into AirPods, the Apple TV, and Siri in the Apple TV, it's going to be better.
Yes, I am into AirPods. I don't have the AirPods Pro 2 yet. I'm getting them.
Okay,
I don't have them yet, but I will definitely 100% get them. I love my Pros. I use them literally every single day. So I will get them. It's just a matter of lining up all the dots.
Yeah, I will eventually get them, but my AirPod Pros are within a year new. Like I got them recently, so they're fine until they die.
Well, depending on how they die, you might be able to get the battery replaced. Because I did in both of my AirPods. I got not the batteries. I got new ones basically, but as part of their quality assurance program because they were dying.
Yeah, my Apple Watch, it's within 6% of that magic 80% barrier to get a replacement.
So close.
My hopes is that when the Ultra 2 comes out, I can simultaneously get the battery swapped in my stainless steel, so it's like a brand. I think they just give you a new watch with the
probably, yeah.
So then I can have a pristine stainless steel, and then get the Ultra for all my heavy duty work stuff where I do bang my watch and it's quite scratched. So then I can have a nice fancy watch and then the banged up one.
I'm rocking the Series 7. It's
me too.
It's good for me. I've got a coworker who's eyeing the Ultra, and I'll admit it, I've been eyeing it as well. And I'm like, just telling him, would you just go buy it so I can take a look at it in person, please? Yeah.
I have a Series 7, very happy with it, and still paying it off on the 2-year plan. So I'm a year left into finishing that. But iPad. Lots to talk about iPad. Let's start, I think, with the more interesting product, and that's the 10th generation iPad. Some may call it the iPad X, as the iPhone 10 was called. iPhone 10, had a little X when you spell it out. So iPad 10th generation comes in, I think, the best colors Apple's ever done for iPad as far as fun. That yellow looks just amazing.
If I'm in a bit of a crisis right now of what I'm going to do with my iPad Life, and I tell you, if that yellow was in the air, I think I would have just purchased that and gotten the closest to everything. I love that yellow, but this 10th gen has some compromises that I'm not. It's not for me. It's not for me.
No,
let's put it that way.
They're baffling compromises. Like it's kind of like they got so close to having this be the kind of iPad I recommend for 90% of people, but they just fail on some baffling ways. So there's 2 big ones that I see. You may have some other thoughts as far as baffling decisions with the product line. So we're going to start with the negative, and then we'll go positive because there's some good things there.
Okay.
We'll start negative though. The smart connector retains the old position on the bottom. On the side, which has some ramifications. So first off, my experience with the side connector of Smart Connector was failure rate was high, But then again, that was when the smart connector was in a curved side. I don't know if it's any better with it being a flat design. That could be a thing. It could be more reliable being a flat side. But it also means they couldn't use the Magic Keyboard and instead had to create a brand new keyboard, which seems like a really cool design with the function row. And it seems like this seems awesome. But how much more awesome would it be if we didn't have to buy a special keyboard all for this one, and we could kind of more freely use accessories between iPad models? Like, I'd love to be, if you had an 11-inch iPad Pro, just use either one, and maybe you create this Folio thing with, you know, I don't know. That seems to be a compromise of sorts. Any thoughts on that before we move on?
Yeah, so the keyboard, I think, looks awesome. You know, it's $250. Okay. You know, some people are going to get sticker shock at that. For me, I'm not surprised at all. This is Apple we're talking about. You get the Apple tax, if you will.
It's a $50 discount from the Magic Keyboard for the 11-inch. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Okay. Correct. Because that's $300, and that's what I have. For context on everything, I have the 2018 11-inch iPad Pro. So it's the first 11-inch. I did buy the Magic Keyboard for $300 when that came out in the spring of 2020. I was going into this morning's releases hoping that my keyboard would still be relevant and I would not be replacing an iPad and a keyboard. But this new keyboard, like, it looks really, really good. I'm a little surprised it's only in the white color, but you've got
is that right? I didn't even check that. Yeah.
Yep, I've only seen white. You've got the detachable keyboard, so you can just have the back,
which is great. So yeah, you just pop the keyboard just right off. That's brilliant. Yeah.
It is brilliant. I do question, kind of like you were talking about, the reliability of the connector in that case, if it comes off that easy. But, you know, the Magic Keyboard comes off super easy too, so maybe it'll be fine. But you have that detachable keyboard, but it comes with the trackpad, which iPad's all about that now. You have the function row keys, which is great because I'm definitely a believer that those keys would be a benefit to have some of those controls versus like trying to go up to Control Center. It still feels clunky compared to a keyboard. And on top of that, like you said, like these colors, like I genuinely think all of the colors on this iPad look great. They're not all for me. The yellow, the blue, like they're not all for me, but
I mean, the pink, I could rock the pink. That looks great.
You know,
I saw in the video they were showing the pink, and that looked great.
That's the thing. Like, I would not personally pick the pink.
I'd pick yellow.
I would pick the yellow.
I would go yellow. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. With you. But the pink does look good. Like, I would not think twice about it if I, a friend's like, I really like the pink. What do you think? Great, go buy it. I don't care. Like, it looks great. They all look so good. And as usual, if you're in the Pro line of things, you don't get the fun colors.
Nope.
And I'm like, someday Apple's going to turn everything on their head, and we're going to get this, pink iPad Pro or whatever, and it's going to be glorious.
Yeah. And it seems like the back, you just kind of leave it on at all times. I wonder how easy that is to pop on and off, because I really do like just handling the iPad in tablet mode and feeling metal behind my fingers. So I'm curious how easy that is. I love how adjustable that is, and like it's gonna be great for as a stand. But yeah, I do wonder about how easy is that to take popping on and off. There's less of a camera hole because it's a smaller camera to deal with.
Yeah, and they've moved the camera.
Yes,
but I guess that's the front.
The back camera. I'm talking about. Yep.
It's the back. I think is interesting because you've got that kickstand and stuff built into it, and so
it's less lap able than the Magic Keyboard, which you can use on your lap, no problems. This one, you'd probably do it, but it's a bit more of a show to do it.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like they are pushing the iPads like towards like I don't know if they would say this flat out, but they're clearly pushing them like towards laptop land, right? Like totally. They want this to be laptop replacements, but then they kind of go do something like that. And it's like, well, thing about a laptop is you can literally put it on your lap, and I don't know how well that would work with this kickstand, but it is going to be ultra portable. It's going to at a table work fine. I'm not going to buy one, but I really need to just make a trip down to the Apple Store and look at a bunch of products that I haven't gotten to see in person yet, because it really does look interesting.
Okay, yeah, the keyboard, as you said, it looks great. We got a trackpad on this thing, and the other compromise, the most baffling decision, we got to talk about the pencil.
Oh my God, it's
here.
so bad.
So, when I saw this design initially, I was like, oh, thank God, the Apple Pencil 2 would work with this. I handed down an Apple Pencil 2 to a family member, and they're investigating which iPad to get for it. I've been suggesting different Pro models and, that are on sale with, used market and stuff like that. But they ideally want to get something relatively new. And when this came out, I was like, oh, this is going to be perfect. And then we discovered this USB-C iPad only supports a Lightning-based Apple Pencil, which cannot natively be plugged into this iPad. You need a $9 adapter to pair it to the iPad, and that adapter, I believe, won't even let you charge that pencil. You need a different adapter to charge
are you
the pencil.
serious?
I believe that is what I've been seeing. So it is.
I didn't catch that.
It is quite the dongle scene with that. Yeah.
Yeah, so the workflow to pair your iPad with your iPad 10th gen with your Apple Pencil 1st gen is you take the Lightning based Apple Pencil into this dongle, and on the other end of the dongle you plug in a USB-C to USB-C cable, and you plug the other end of that into your iPad. I'm sorry, this does not just work. It is super convoluted, and like regular people are not going to figure this out. And frankly, this $9 dongle should just come with these iPads. Like they should just throw it in. No, not everybody has the Apple Pencil, but
yeah, it comes with the pencil, but there's so many used pencils in the market that it should just come with the iPad. I mean, this product is like it works with the pencil, but like it's like trying to make you not want to use it with the pencil just based on this design decision. Like they should have figured out how to make Apple Pencil 2 work with this. I understand the camera placement makes it complicated.
Right.
You're Apple, you can figure that out. That's your job.
And they could have just redesigned the Apple Pencil 1 a little bit and taken the Lightning off, put a USB-C on it.
They could have done like what Logitech Crayon got updated with a USB-C port.
Yes,
Apple could have made a revised Apple Pencil 1 with the USB-C port. That would have been the way to do it.
Have you ever used a Logitech Crayon?
I have not. I've heard differing things. Like, it's a bit of
my daughter has one, and they're pretty good. I mean, it is essentially an Apple Pencil without a few of the finer motions and stuff of it. But it has, or at least the one my daughter has a female end Lightning port on it, so she can charge the pencil or the crayon with the same cord she's charging her iPad with. Yeah. And so that and
that's what Logitech did here. There's a USB-C port where you can just charge using the same thing. And since Logitech, it's proximity-based pairing, you don't need to plug it in to the iPad itself to do the charging.
Logitech just hasn't figured out. But like you, when I first saw this design, I was like, surely like Apple Pencil 2, that's great. And nope, okay, the camera's in the middle, the FaceTime camera. I mean, that makes sense, right? Because that's right where the magnet would be.
Yeah, that is an awesome move for the camera to be where it should be. It worries me, though, that they couldn't figure this out because, like, they're eventually going to redesign the iPad Pro. We got this better pencil. They got to figure out how to do a camera up there along with a pencil up there. Like, that needs to be solved.
I mean, yes, but it seems like you could almost... It would look a little funky, but redesign it and have like the pencil on the top or the bottom, maybe. I don't know
side.
Exactly.
You could have it along the side, perhaps.
It seems like there are other options that they could. I mean, they'll figure it out, right? I mean, they will figure it out. But for right now, it's this really weird compromised device. If you are somebody who uses the Apple Pencil heavily, but at the same time, maybe the case is if you're buying this iPad, you probably long ago dove into like the iPad Air or the iPad Pros to get that Pencil 2 experience. And maybe they're just, we're doing this as a way to say, hey, every single iPad is compatible with the Apple Pencil.
Yeah. I mean, it's technically true. But yeah, it's so close to being, because those are the only two things really that are like, keep this from being a runaway success in my mind. The Apple Pencil, which should be a better experience because you're gonna have to charge that Apple Pencil frequently, and we made fun of that first generation plugging it into the Lightning port. This is just a whole other league of just like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I've never liked that pencil. I had one.
Yeah,
but I had one, but I would only charge it that way, like out of necessity. Because that one came with a lightning to lightning adapter that you could charge it with, and so I did that. And yeah, this iPad is, if you're price conscious, it's super compelling iPad from that standpoint. And if you don't care about the Apple Pencil, then that's irrelevant to you. It's a great iPad.
Yeah, the price did go up, so we still have the 9th generation sticking around as well as the 10th. So it's $449 for the baseline, and if you want a decent amount of storage, it's now a $599 iPad.
Huge jump in price.
And the cellular upgrade is $150 instead of, I believe, the old school iPad 9th generation was a $129 upgrade. So you can outfit this for $749 plus the $250 keyboard. You're looking at MacBook Air pricing at that point.
Oh yeah, you absolutely are.
And since it doesn't include the M1 chip like the iPad Air, no Stage Manager for you.
Or at least no Stage Manager, I presume, for external displays
Or internally, I believe.
Are they not doing it internally either?
No, because it's an iPad Pro only feature, 2018 or later, and they at least have not announced support for it. I'm gathering it, since it's just a baseline A14. There's like the X component of the iPad Pro chips, the X and Z, like the beefed up graphics is what they're gonna, So yeah, no Stage Manager support.
That's so weird because my iPad has the A12X Bionic, and it can only on the iPad itself. It technically is gonna support Stage Manager.
You got the X part of that chip, which
it does. It's got the X factor. You're right.
I mean, people make fun of that. When the iPad Pro before the M1s were out, like the X, like they were substantially different from the regular chips. So, but I'm sure they could make Stage Manager work on this thing if they wanted to.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you're a power user who wants Stage Manager, you're probably also not looking at this iPad. Like this to me really is the consumer base model iPad, which then baffles my mind why they jumped the price so much. $450 versus, I think $450, right? That's what you said.
Versus $329.
$329 of the iPad 9th Gen, which for the record is a great iPad. I actually have one from work. And it's the iPad my son has is a 9th Gen, and it's a great iPad. I'm like, that's the discussion. Like, I would have a hard time if someone's like, which iPad do I buy? I'm like, I'm going to be a little hard pressed to tell you to spend another $150 unless you just love the form factor so much more.
Yeah. And so then the discussion comes, iPad Air. What's this thing doing around? So iPad Air has an M1 chip, does Stage Manager even on external displays. So that's a big win as far as that. It's a weird thing, though, like price-wise. Do you get an iPad Air or do you get the 11-inch iPad Pro? It's kind of in this weird middle position. And I would love them to support clamshell mode for... imagine clamshell mode with Touch ID on the side button. Like that'd be just great on an iPad like this.
Yeah. Have you seen the iPad Air much?
No, just occasionally in stores.
It's a really nice iPad. My wife has one. She was it was time. Her iPad before that was my old 9.7 Pro. So like she had been not using it, extensively very much because it was way past its useful life.
Yeah.
And we settled on getting her the iPad Air, but we went back and forth on getting her an 11-inch Pro or potentially having her take my current 11-inch Pro when I inevitably get a new one. But it settled ultimately on the Air. I do think the color was a factor there. She chose blue, but It's actually a really nice iPad. It fits right in the Magic Keyboard case. It's not like you would never be able to tell the difference. Touch ID works totally fine and on the button. And at least for me, like when I have the iPad on my desk, it's usually off to my side a little bit, and so I have to turn my head to get Face ID to go anyway. But Touch ID is fine. And Face ID is better overall, but Touch ID and the button, it's a good placement for it.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the specs page. Basically, you get an M1 chip, and the screen quality seems better. Those seem to be the major differences between the latest Air and this 10th Gen.
According to their comparison page, they're both 10.9-inch liquid retina displays with True Tone. No, nothing else on them.
Yeah, but beyond that, there are better, like fully laminated anti-reflecting coating is only on the Air. Wide color P3 gamut, stuff like that. It's like a fancier display. It's not ProMotion, but it's fancier. It's like, yeah,
and ProMotion is nice. Got to jump up to the 11-inch Pro if you want that, though.
You do, and yeah, ProMotion's just, I love it. Like, it's awesome having it on the phone now for me. And if I'm recommending like an artist to look at an iPad, ProMotion, I think, is a big deal for tracking the pencil as fast as it does.
I would agree. If you're a digital artist and that's the kind of art where you're drawing, absolutely.
Yeah, and as I watched the video, and they made a big deal about moving the camera, so you're looking at it, which that makes sense. That's great.
Yeah, it's a great update. My friend Chris was like, when are they going to do that to the iPad Pros? Like, I want the FaceTime camera in the middle of the iPad Pro so people don't think I'm just looking off to the side all the time when I'm really just looking at the screen. I'm like, absolutely. Maybe next year? I don't know. Maybe 18 months from now? Because, when did the 2021 come out? They're not on an annual cycle.
No, it's about a year and a half for iPad Pros is kind of the cycle they've been on for a long time now. And kind of the iPad Mini and iPad Air are at a similar cycle. Like, they get updated around the same time. It's a weird thing. It's a weird product. I mean, this iPad, like, it's great. There's just some quirks like that would prevent me from wanting it, which I guess I'm not the market for it. I want the big iPad Pro.
Yeah, if you're a 12.9 person, well, then your decision is easy. It's, do you keep the one you have or do you buy the new one that came out? Like, if me as someone who likes the 11-inch size, I just in general prefer it, though I totally understand why you would want the big one. I don't feel like my decision is black and white. Though ironically, that's probably what it'll come down to because those are my only choices for colors.
You'd also have to change out. You'd have to buy a brand new keyboard versus not needing a brand new keyboard.
If I went all the way to the 10th gen one, yes, I would. And I'm not going to do it because ultimately I'm going to want the M series chips. They're going to just be supported longer. Once all the bugs are hammered out of Stage Manager, you'll get that for external support. I will want the M series chips. So now I'm down to the Air or the Pro. Well, if I was going to buy an Air, I would have bought it a long time ago. So I'm most likely I'm going to get one of these new Pros, but I haven't quite pulled the trigger yet.
Yeah, would you wait another year and a half to see what's next?
That's the thing that really hurts is another year and a half. And I really feel like the next round is going to be a big one. And in the grand scheme of things...
Because you could. Like, you have Stage Manager on that. You don't have external display support. I don't know how big of a deal that is for you.
It's not that big a deal. The big thing with me is I want to do experience Stage Manager. Well, between my iPad Stage Manager and my MacBook Pro is going to be able to get it when I go Ventura with that. I'll get to experience Stage Manager and get a good feeling for what it's like. So I don't know. I don't anticipate buying an iPad tonight. I don't anticipate that, but I will probably, if I don't order one within a week, then I'm probably like committing to just writing this one out until the next one.
Yeah. And like, I need, like, as far as my main iPad, it has to be a Pro because I'm reliant on a Thunderbolt dock, which only supports on the Pros.
Yes, which will be a really nice update for me because I'll get it. If I go Pro, I get Thunderbolt.
You do.
If the feature I wanted more than anything, that Liquid Retina XDR display did not come to the 11-inch,
and it's so good. Like, and they made it even better with iPadOS 16. I've been editing a lot more photos recently, as you might have heard on many of the episodes recently. That reference mode, I've been toggling that on. It's like, ooh, this is kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. Like, it is. And I won't lie, I did price out a larger iPad, but ultimately I'm like, then I'd need a whole new keyboard, and it's getting above what I want to pay for now. Like, the investment I want to put into it right now.
It's expensive. Let's get to the more expensive iPad Pro with M2 chip. So, initial thoughts. What are your thoughts here?
That they really didn't change very much at all versus the M1 model. And you could take that as a couple ways. On one hand, you could say, oh, that's really lazy. All they did was swap the processors, right? On the other hand, you could say it was already really, really great hardware. So they just made it a little bit more modern. They made it's going to last a little bit longer because they gave it a little bit more beefier chip. And so I don't totally agree with those who say it's lazy. I also don't think it's like this revolutionary update that I've seen a few people say. I can't go with them there. If you have an M1 iPad Pro, in my opinion, you should probably not buy this. But if you have one of the earlier models, I think you're justified. That, that's for my money anyway. I say that and I'm on the fence.
Yeah, I, as an M1 iPad Pro owner, I don't feel left out at all. Like I don't feel like hover seems like a cool thing. We'll talk about the hover ability of the pencil, but I don't use the pencil enough to make it something where hovering with the pencil will make me want to spend another $2,000 to get a similar spec iPad. Like it's around 2000. Yeah.
Show me how the hover is going to help me in Ferrite, and maybe we'll have a conversation. But otherwise, no.
I mean, I'll be having that discussion with Steven from Apple Insider, who edits with the Apple Pencil and Ferrite. And that'll be a fun discussion to see how that he's getting one. So that'll be fun to see what his thoughts are with Ferrite. And they mentioned something about app developers needing to update to support this hover. So I'm curious. I'm sure Canis, developer of Ferrite, will update, and I'm curious how that will go for.
Yeah, you're a developer and you're a supporter. Like you use the Apple Pencil as part of your app. Absolutely, you probably need to get your hands on one of these so you can experience what that hover state is like. And it looked pretty cool. Like
it looks neat. Mm-hmm. Like you can pinch to resize how big your brush is underneath. That seems really cool.
Yeah, my wife's sibling is a really, really great digital artist, and I'm sure that like they would love to get their hands on this, and they've just drawn some amazing artwork on the iPad, and I would love to see what they could come up with using that. But like again, like is that going to help me in Ferrite? If not, then it's not for me. But that's okay. A device like the iPad can't entirely be for like they got to go to a wide market, right?
The other really cool thing is Scribble. It's always felt weird trying to scribble in these tiny text boxes. With hover, it'll like expand out the text box to give you room to write. That seems really smart. But it's a nicety. Like it's not something worth upgrading for. For me at least.
Yeah, and I was looking at the Geekbench scores compared to my current iPad of just the M1, and I'm like, I'm probably going to do it. It's a pretty big jump, but it wasn't that slam dunk for me. But I totally understand why other people would do it. It's just I'm looking at the way I'm using the iPad right now, and I'm trying to justify it to I want to pull that trigger, but I got to justify it to myself.
So, something that was kind of sneaked into the announcement were these new apps coming to iPad, which I've been waiting for Affinity Publisher forever. It came to the Mac like years ago, and even like a couple weeks ago, I emailed Affinity. It's like, is Publisher coming to iPad? I haven't heard back, and then here we go. Affinity Publisher 2. It says Affinity Publisher 2 iPad is the name of the product, which is a weird name. So we're getting the second version. We didn't get a first version for iPad. We're getting Affinity Publisher, so like a proper page layout, and which I'm jazzed for. I love the Affinity apps.
All in favor, more pro applications. Yes, bring them all, because at this point, I with my job and stuff, I'm on macOS the majority of my day, but I love iOS and I love iPadOS, and so yes, anything to just push those platforms forward, please, please, please make that happen.
And then the big news, of course, is DaVinci Resolve coming to iPad. This is evidently one of the competitors to Final Cut and Premiere. And there's on Mac OS like a free version, and then you can pay, I think, $300 for a full license. This is from the guys that make the Blackmagic cameras. It's like a software that they make mainly to make their cameras like better tools. So it's an interesting product because it's from a hardware company that is using software to sell their expensive cameras. So they can make the software fairly accessible as far as a price perspective. So I'm curious what they do pricing here. I really hope there is a pay once lifetime thing like they do on the Mac.
Yeah, hopefully. I wouldn't be surprised if they go subscription. It seems like that's what everybody's doing nowadays, which is fine if that works for you. But again, just getting like these kind of apps and more of them, because there's always been one or two, but like getting more of them so you can actually have a competitive marketplace, it just helps everybody, right? It just helps the overall innovation in that space for iPads.
Yeah, and now LumaFusion has a competitor to push them. LumaFusion's awesome. They've been spending 2 or 3 years trying to get this multicam update out. I was on a beta, and then they pulled the beta from the public beta cycles, and I don't know what's going on with that. They're working on like an Android app. Like having a competitor on iPad for serious video editing, I think will push them to do better work and potentially be more focused on iPad than they have been. So I think that'll be good for the market.
Yes, you always want some good, healthy competition. Always.
Yeah, and I'm just so curious to play with DaVinci Resolve. Like, I want to know what this app can do. I know like color grading is a big selling point of this app. People use this in the professional realm for that. I just want to get my hands on DaVinci Resolve and see what I can do with it. As well as something I won't use, but Octane X, which they use to do like in films for I believe like the special effects. They mentioned like Star Trek was mentioned in the 9-minute keynote that they put out.
Yeah, Octane X, that looks like an interesting one. I have a couple friends who I could see playing around with that, but definitely not something I would even begin to know how to use. I definitely not my wheelhouse. But yeah, it looked pretty neat. So hopefully I look forward to seeing one of those videos where it was like shot on iPhone, edited entirely on iPad with these new tools, these new apps and features that are available.
And something they have been promoting is, for the first time, so the power of the M2 extends to the new media engine and the image signal processor, which combined with the advanced cameras enable users to capture ProRes video for the first time and transcode ProRes footage up to 3x faster, all on iPads. So you can capture ProRes video on the iPad. It won't look nearly as good as ProRes shot on iPhone, but you won't need to spend hours upon hours doing airdrops over to the iPad. So if you're trying to flip something quick for whatever projects you're on, this seems like a cool option.
Yeah, that was my very first thought too, is I don't see where this could possibly be as good as what they just put out on the iPhone 14 Pro, but it's already right there. You don't have to use the Lightning port to import it to your iPad directly by a cable or through AirDrop or through go to your Mac and then circle back around. Like, you don't have to go through your iCloud. Like, it'd be so much faster. It's just right there on device. It
was kind of funny. In the 9 minutes keynote, they shared these huge video files. It's great that the new iPad Pros have 5G and Wi-Fi 6E to transfer those video files. These are Thunderbolt iPads that if you want to offload these to the Mac, have Thunderbolt. But yet they were promoting 6E, which great that it's fully up to date with that as in 5G worldwide is what they said. So I'm not sure if you're getting 5G in Antarctica, but that's what Apple says you can.
Yeah, when the iPhone goes USB-C, inevitably that'll be super great, because then you'll really be able to like get the best of both worlds.
Absolutely. And I could have sworn LumaFusion could work with ProRes footage, but it sounds like there's stuff in the M2 chip, and I believe there is. That was a big deal with I think the MacBook Air, is that ProRes, you can deal with that in a much better way with M2. So,
yeah, that sounds right.
But this is ProRes is great, but I don't do a ton with video, and especially ProRes video. I don't touch. I shoot in ProRAW for camera stuff, like still images, but I don't want to mess with ProRes. I don't have that much storage to try to deal with that.
Yeah, editing videos, I know less about that than I do editing photos, and that's not saying very much. So I definitely do not use these apps, other than I've looked at them before, but I've never made anything with them.
Yeah, and as far as M2 in general, it seems like the big performance boost is with the memory bandwidth. Like, that seems significantly better than M1, But as we've discovered with the Macs, the M1, the M2 jump, it's been just, a decent little, 15% or something. It's not been a huge revolutionary thing. And I'm also curious, M2 Macs seem to be running warmer. So I'm curious in the iPad how that will play out for when you are running LumaFusion or DaVinci Resolve, Ferrite, doing your big exports, what that experience will be like as far as the thermal envelope.
Especially because they don't have a fan, right? No active cooling, as they call it, like a fan, right?
Yeah, it'll be similar to MacBook Air, but with no keyboard to vent out air.
Yeah, so you gotta think it would throttle at some point, and it would throttle earlier than supposed MacBook Pro that had an M2 chip in it would.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so same price points exactly, same storage tiers, all that. Is the same. Stage Manager seemingly is identical in its support. Same 4 apps on internal and external displays once external gets updated to support that. And yeah, they shared, reference mode and all the stuff that is on the M1 iPad Pro as well. And I think that's it for the iPad Pro, right?
It really pretty much is. What do you think about the lack of the heavily rumored MagSafe?
Thank you for bringing that up. That was such a thing, right? People were saying MagSafe, we're gonna have this. Maybe it'll be laptop style where it's like for charging, and then some people are saying maybe they'll revise the smart connector on the back to be more capable.
Right, there were all these rumors, extra pins on the smart connector. You're going to be able to use the same MagSafe that you can use on the new MacBook M2 MacBook Airs or the MacBook Pros. And sure, that'd be cool, but like when it didn't happen, I wasn't surprised. But the ones that really blew my mind the most was the rumors about like the same MagSafe puck that you charge an iPhone with. I'm like, you're going to just stick it on the Apple logo in the back. I'm like, no, come on, they're not going to do that.
Yeah, I want them to do more with the smart connector. That's for sure. Like, I want that to be able to transmit more data. I'd love if I could plug something into a future Magic Keyboard and that USB-C port and have data go through that as well.
Yeah, use it as more than just power, which it's great as power, but
yeah, instead of MagSafe, I want a better smart connector. That's what I want.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree. I love that they have that power pass-through port on, and I know it technically charges a little bit slower, but at least from every time I've used it, which includes right now, it's close enough that it gives you that, the really nice thing of having the ability to charge on whichever side is more convenient. And it would be cool if that could actually be a full-on hub, like a port for a hub where you could plug actual peripherals into various dongles or hard drives, things like that. Hard drives, imagine that'd be a great way to transfer video files, right?
Yeah. In the press release, they reiterate external display support for Stage Manager is coming to M1 and M2 iPads later this year. So that is still coming this year. Yeah. So and it's late October. So I'm hoping 16.2 seems to be what that must be in.
Well, I finally got a Tri-Stage Manager since they did make it a little more backwards compatible.
Yeah, what's the 2018 experience like?
It's okay. I can see the real utility of it. When I've used it, I feel like I've gotten the most out of it by putting 3 apps, not 4. You can do the 4, but 3 apps in that single column layout or that iPhone style width layout, and you could see all 3 at one time. That was pretty useful. You can totally see how somebody with a bigger screen and external display that they're plugging into would really get a lot of utility out of this. Man, count me a.
I mean, it's awesome with external because right now I've got you on my Safari window on the iPad with the camera and everything. Mm-hmm. Then externally, I've got all my notes and stuff for the show. It's such a just different way of you can do more with the iPad.
And if I agree, if they could, let that go in clamshell mode where you could just, turn off that screen and only you could wirelessly pair a Magic Trackpad and Magic Keyboards to it.
How cool would it be if they added external camera support? Like you could plug in a USB webcam to your iPad.
Yeah, or you could do that, or even
The studio display.
Can you use the camera if you're in studio display? You'd think I'd know this. My wife has one, but I don't use it that often.
No, it does not touch the iPad. Sadly, it should, but does not.
It's my wife's work machine, so I don't use it that often. But I should have tried that out. I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, it
No,
does
you
not
say it
work.
doesn't
Sadly,
work, so.
the speakers work, but that's about it. And the brightness controls, I think, work if you have a keyboard hooked up to it that supports that.
With the function row. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Braided USB-C cables come with the iPad Pros now, which is cool, and you can buy those separately. Yeah. So I might finally I might buy one of those separately at some point.
Which is good. I work in education, and I know how hard these cables get treated, but I also see like how easily they fray all the time. So
totally,
yes, definitely the braided cables always an improvement.
Yeah, and then yeah. Anything else? I'm trying to look through. Mac Rumors tends to do a good job pulling things together. Like Wi-Fi 6E seems like a nice thing. The standard iPad is just 6. I don't know the big difference between 6 and 6E. Are you a network engineer?
I'm not, and I'm on like I don't even know what generation Eros I have. They work great. I have no interest in upgrading them right now, but I know they're not. There's a newer version of them out than what I don't have, so I'm sure mine don't have that. And I saw that, and I'm like, well, that's great future proofing, because eventually everything will move that way. So it's good for future proofing. I wonder how much that is out and available now.
Yeah, and then we did hear that 16.1 is launching on Monday, October
24th, I believe.
24th, yeah. And we are getting iCloud shared photo library along with Ventura, so we can finally start using that, which will be great. Live activities are coming, and apps are being accepted in the App Store for that. I have a home key from the Schlog in Code Plus, and I'll be able to share that key now with family members that aren't a part of the home, so that'll be nice.
The shared photo library I'm super interested in, but I'm suddenly, as of an hour, 2 hours ago, a little worried about it just because I happened to open my photo library and in the People album, my daughter was disappeared, and then I looked at my son's pictures and every single one of my daughters was in them. Every single one. And she's 4 years older than him, so we're talking hundreds and hundreds of photos. And so I started to try and just manually remove them. I'm like, this is too many. And I just blew out the whole thing. I'm going to let it re-index them all. But it didn't seem to affect any of my other People albums that I have. But I'm like, let's be honest. So I'm still going to try it. I'll make the library and try it. I mean, that's what backups are for, right? So.
Oh, for sure. And then we're getting Matter support on Monday. And then I just want to mention the Watch 9.1 update just delighted me when I saw that we will now be able to download music over cellular or Wi-Fi directly on the Watch. No more Bluetooth syncing. And then Audible also updated their app today to directly talk to the library via cellular or Wi-Fi, so you don't need a Bluetooth sync. Audible stuff from the phone, which took forever, and is now just gonna work, which I'm very excited about that. And then
absolutely.
Then if you do have I was just wondering about this. So Series 8 and Ultra and SE2 watches get that like extended battery life mode for less frequent heart rate stuff. I was hoping the Series 7 could get that mode, but it looks like it's just the latest generation of watches.
Oh, that's too bad. I was hoping to get to try that one.
But
I guess that's a reason to go Ultra, right?
Or Series 8 too. I guess. And SE 2, like they must have done something in this chip which is identical as far as speed. They must have done something in this chip to enable this mode. Is what?
Yeah, because I thought it was the same basic chip as the 8, the 7, and the 6 were all the same one. Maybe even the 5. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I forget when they tweaked it. I thought it was maybe the 6. But it might have been the 5, yeah. But yeah, and then you can buy the webcam thing for the iPhone mounting on top of your Mac. I want to try to see if that works with the iPad Pro, so I can mount my phone on top and capture that footage. And it'd be nice if the continuity camera worked there too.
Yes, hopefully that stuff will, end up over time working. But I'm curious to try that. I have a webcam now. It's an Aki thing. It's fine. It wasn't the nicest. It wasn't the most expensive by any means, but it was just something that when podcast I'm involved with wanted to go to video, like they wanted to try. I'm like, if continuity camera would have been out, I probably would have just grabbed an old iPhone first and done that.
Yeah. And then some other tidbits here. The camera system is identical on this latest M2 iPad Pro versus the M1. It's just a better chip to make ProRes work. So it's the same exact cameras from the old iPad M1s. And then evidently GSM and Edge support is gone on the M2 iPad Pros. GSM is interesting because I thought T-Mobile and AT&T were GSM, but I guess they've been upgraded past GSM at this point or something.
Yeah, the cellular carrier standards and stuff. I lose.
Oh wait, this it's just Edge support. Sorry, so 2G. The original iPhone speeds are dropped. Basically, is what it says here.
I didn't even know that was still around. I thought that was long gone.
I still have a couple original iPhones, and I boot them up every now and then. And it appears that those phones will be just as very useless at not having cell network data.
I have a 3GS. That I have, I don't have a 30 pin though, so I need to. If I do, I don't know where one's at, but I really should charge it up and check it out.
Yeah. And yeah, that is it, I believe.
I think that's about it. And you know what? They did the right thing, not doing a big event video and stuff like that, because they didn't have enough. Yeah.
Yeah, the 9-minute video was great. Making us wait 3 hours while the store was down. It's not nice. No. 2 hours is plenty. Come on.
I mean, I'm impatient. I was checking out like 6 a.m. in Central Time. It's like, well, of course it's not available yet, but.
I'm excited. I'll be able to charge my Apple TV remote with my iPad Pro. That'll be fun.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
Because you can charge things to that port, So.
I mean, I guess technically you could now if you had a C to Lightning cable, because you can charge your phone off your iPad.
That's true. Yeah, I could do that now, yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Never.
I mean, I've so rarely charged the thing. But anyways. This has been fun chat,
forever.
Brent. Thank you for your some time. I needed to vent about that. That's very silly Apple Pencil situation. It's so baffling.
It's weird, and I understand why anyone will upgrade. For me personally, I'm like in this crisis. I don't know what I'm gonna do. It's like I want to buy the new shiny, right? But I'm like I can't run. I'm struggling, but I'll figure it out.
Well, where can folks find your podcast that you're up to? Everything.
I'm Brent Tech Prim on Twitter and TikTok, and I am a member of the Marvel Alliance podcast, talking all things Marvel. We go live on YouTube on Thursday nights at 8:10 Central, and then the audio drops on Friday and everywhere the podcasts are.
Very cool. And I don't need to say where I'm from because this is my podcast.
This is your show. They found you.
For those listening to the audio, this is the very first time we've done a live broadcast of the actual interview. I'll be putting this all together in the audio version, but every now and then check out twitter.com or check out at iPad Pros Podcast on Twitter, and occasionally I'll tweet if I'm doing a live recording as we did tonight. So thank you, Brent, for your time. It's been great.
Yes, thank you very much. This was a lot of fun.
Well, that's my discussion with Brent all about the new iPads and Apple TV. My thanks again to Brent for his time recording this episode, and my thanks to you for your time and attention tuning in. As a reminder, you can support the podcast over at patreon.com/iPadPros or by subscribing in Apple Podcasts. With that, I'll talk to everyone again next week for a very special episode.